Good morning, everyone, and welcome to your Tech Tip Thursday. I am here with you today to share with you some tech tips for Excel. So last time I talked about Excel, we talked about using formulas, and this is definitely a skill that every single one of us can use because all of us are looking at a number of trackers for everything. So I'm going to talk about some of the things that we could do with our time in class data, but this really will apply to any data that you have. These are statistics that you could look at. So we're going to go back to our old friends, the formula, okay? And you'll notice this spreadsheet is already set up to count the number of days between two dates. It uses a formula called network days. So it counts the number of days between this date and this date. So notice this is the B cell. Well, let me move to the right one. Notice this is the B50 cell and the C50 cell. So it just counts the number of days between these two dates. So already this spreadsheet is figuring out how long students were in class. I'm going to do some total data. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the formula that's here. And I'm going to do some counting data and I'm going to do some averages. So if you want to do a formula, you go to the cell. You can either put your equal sign in here or here. They're the same thing. So you type your equal sign and it comes up there. And it even suggests to me the sum, but sum is not what I want. So I'm going to type in the average. Okay. And it suggests what cells I might want to average, and it's almost exactly right. So let me just choose that average, and let me look and make sure, yes, I do want to average from B2. Okay, so I'm going to come back here or from F2 and all the way to F50 because I have 50 lines. Okay, so this is the average number of days of in class. So I'm going to go ahead and label that average. And you really could do any formula here. Now this number is kind of hard for me to look at as an English teacher. So one of the things that I like to do is to go ahead and go up to the format, and you can change the kind of number this is. And I'm going to go to a number without a decimal place because there's no partial days. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and the average is 129. This is not real data, just so you know. This is a randomly generated list of dates. So this data may or may not be right. And you know what? I really want to make sure this doesn't get confused with my data. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert a row above, and I'm just going to fill this row so that it's separated. Okay, so I have the average, and there's a ton of other formulas you could use, and you math people might know more of them. If you do come up here and you go to insert, you can go to function, and you have a whole list of formulas that you can use. And what I do when I want to do something is I Google the formula for it, because sometimes the formulas are a little bit more complicated, right? Well, some of these I just don't even know. I honestly don't even know. Like a VLOOKUP will look up a location, all sorts of craziness. So I would say the ones that I most often use are the statistical ones, the averages. In this list, you also have the median, the min, the max, the mode. Okay, so this gives you a lot of data. Okay, even percentiles. So we have a whole bunch of data here that you could pull. It's all going to work basically the same way. When you click on one of these, so let's say I wanted the average if instead of the average, okay? And this I might use if I didn't have the right dates. I would look up and see what the formula is for this. Oh, and it even gives you the formula help. So criteria range. So I'm going to say the average if, I only want the average if they're in Apex courses. So I'm going to go ahead over here and I'm going to make this my criteria. And the average of students who are, Okay, so that's my criteria range. And I'm going to do comma, and I'm going to put apex. So this is going to look at that column and pull only the students who are labeled apex. And now I'm telling it where to get the average of the data. So I'm going to come here and get this row. So now it's going to be the average of just the students who are in apex. And I'm going to press enter. And what do you know? This is a little lower than the ones in blend. And again, these are randomly generated numbers, so this may not be how it actually is. Now, real quick, I just pulled that down. So it copied it almost. It shifted it one row down because I pulled it down, so it shifted it down. So I'm going to change that to 2 and change that to 50. And now instead of apex, I'm going to change this to blend. And press enter, and that's my average if they're in blend. So my random numbers truly are random, so it gave me numbers that were very similar for both. So now I have these numbers, the blend average, and I can look at this average data and see if there's a difference. Now for me, unfortunately, there isn't a difference. Next time I'm going to get into some things that we can do with this data. I did want to talk about one more thing, and I know I showed you guys this before, but probably the other thing I would do with this data set is, well, I do more average ifs. I'd probably average if and look at the different classes and see how much time they're spending in the different classes, okay? I also would probably do a count by grade, okay? So I might come here and do a count if, and I would choose my range, and just for simplicity, I'm going to go ahead and type it in, but you can go ahead, you can just copy the range. You don't have to know this, because I know sometimes for people it's a little bit hard to remember that, comma, and I'm going to say I want to count all the A's, okay? Press enter. There are 0 A's. Sorry, math team. I'm going to go ahead and copy that formula and bring it down. Now, the advantage of copying it is when I copy it, it doesn't actually move the formula as opposed to dragging down. And I'm going to see how many B's there are. So I'm just going to change that to B. Also 0 B's. Now that I know is not right. Oh, I know what I've done wrong. Look at my data for B. I have accidentally put extra stuff in here. So I'm going to take this out. And now that's right. Okay, so see, I put an extra parenthesis and extra apostrophe and a quotation mark because, and this is something to remember about Excel and any computer type of function you're doing, there is syntax you must use. And if you mess up your syntax, unlike in the English language, it does not work. You have to say things the way the computer recognizes. So I went ahead and changed all of these. So I have my count if A, B, C, and D on these columns, and I'm going to go ahead and label them. And notice I did put them down below so that I would be able to see them. Now this is my rough data. I'm going to go on later and make some charts and stuff to make it easier to interpret this data. But now I have a count of every grade. I would definitely do a count of the classes and figure out the average score by class. So an average if, and go over to this field and do algebra and algebra 1, right? So we might have to do some playing around with where we're going to put the data. Anyway, I hope this helps. Next time, I will have a bunch more data filled in, and we'll look at some charts that you could do. I'm going to be doing the same formulas. So for me, I feel like average if, and count if are going to give me a good range of data. But if there's another formula that some of you are math teachers, would like to know how to use, or you think would be helpful, please let me know, and I will make sure to share that next time when we're talking about using this data to visually represent it and talk about what it shows us. Have a great week.